Is your hair loss autoimmune? Experts are going to be diving into that. With that and more, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Hair Wire. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hair Wire, the place where you, my friends, get hair smart. I'm your host, Sergio Cardona, alongside with Bisan Dipsy. Our friend Carrie Jared is under the sun right now in beautiful Dominican Republic.
She's literally baking under the sun.
Literally. And of course, she's having a vacation time with her family. So enjoy your vacations, Carrie. Have a great one. We definitely would love to be there with you right now. You know,
I would
Dominican
love
Republic.
to.
I mean, if you are in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, that's one of my special places. I love Dominican Republic. I say in another time I was Dominican because I love their food. Oh my gosh, I love their food. It's amazing, amazing food. If you're a foodie, definitely you want to come to the Caribbean. You want to come to Puerto Rico, of course, and you want to go to the Dominican Republic. But my God, they can cook. Yep. And another place where you can get your international breakfast is at Bisan's house. So no, Bisan, she can cook. She can cook. No, let me tell you guys. At one time I visited her, and she made this Mediterranean style breakfast. Yes, God, that was something else. That was something else.
Yeah, every time I want to make it for Dino, is like, I don't want to sleep the whole night because it's so good and so yummy and it's heavy. So
no, I mean the Palestinian food is something else. Yeah. It is something else, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you right now, that is something else. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to give me a second here. I'm trying to get this to our friends at the Television Food Support Group. All right, here we go.
You got it.
Yep, I think I did. So today we have an amazing subject, guys. Today we want to be talking about autoimmune disorders and their relationship to hair loss. Now we want to deep dive into four major topics: the Alopecia Areata, and they have different forms, different presentations. You have the usual Alopecia Areata, you know, the circular spots in different places on their scalp or anywhere in your body, for that matter. And then when they become totalis, and eventually they could become universalis, when, you know, it's basically your whole body is lacking all forms of hair. Which is, you know, the largest form that it is of alopecia areata. Then we have the different types of scarring alopecias, and of course, each particular one is always related to an autoimmune disorder caused by different things, and that's what it means to be particular about each type of immune alopecia. And also, we're going to be diving into seborrheic dermatitis. Again, this is a form of scalp disorder, but it can also trigger a form of telogen effluvium. And there you have basically your relationship between alopecia and autoimmune hair loss. Sorry, my Spanglish starts to kick in. So not today, not today.
I love this movie, by the way, Spanglish. Did you watch this movie before?
Yeah, I love the movie, by the way. But you know, it's the thing. You know, you start thinking in your language, but at the same time, you want to translate in English at the same time. So hey, it pays to be bilingual, polyglot. I don't know if that's the right word, polyglot. Polyglot. When you speak different languages.
No, I don't know that.
All right, it's a word in Spanish. All right, then I'm inventing it in English. Multi-language, yeah.
Multi-language,
And also today we're going to be talking about chemo-induced hair loss and why it's also related to autoimmune disorders. So, Biz, looks like you're a bit under the weather.
Yeah, I have allergies. So it is the creating an autoimmune response.
Exactly.
Talking about.
That's why I wanted to bring you up.
Yeah, so that's a good opening in a way that allergies, how I see allergies, is when our barrel is full of toxins, and then pollen come in, and like different kind of pollens come in, because now we're coming into the spring break and the spring
Yep.
season. So in a way that my system didn't handle the extra foreign bodies around me, and it started to give me this allergic reaction. I like it when in Western medicine, when you go to a doctor and they don't know what you are going through, they will, like, if you have like kind of like let us say skin acne or some kind of allergic symptom, they will tell you allergies.
Yep.
Just as a blanket in a way, and it's a blanket for all of your symptoms. And yes, it is allergies, it's a blanket, but what is the root cause of it? The root cause of it is not actually the pollen. It's that's my system is full, my barrel, my system is full in toxins, that any new extra thing that is surrounding me, it is causing this kind of autoimmune response. I believe that now I know why I'm having these allergies. Last year I didn't have them. I have them now because I traveled overseas and Saudi Arabia, and I got so sick over there. So I am just recovering from jet lag and sickness. And apparently, whatever I have the sickness over there, it's still lingering inside my system. So my barrel is full. And I did take some prescription medication because I was like really literally can't get out of bed. So that's why my allergies kicked in this year. See what I'm saying, Sergio? It's like, this is what's called an autoimmune response in a way. Hopefully it won't trigger it. I don't think I am sick to a point where it's going to trigger a telogen effluvium episode for me, because it could.
Yes.
It could, but I am taking care of my diet right now, hydrating more, taking more vitamins, increase my vitamin D intake. Not for maintenance. We should take 2,000, 3,000 IUs. I am taking now 5,000 IUs. Plus, I'm in the sun. I try to be in the sun the whole time until I couldn't take it anymore from the sneezing. But like mostly hydration and liver support these days, to get my body to get rid of whatever it has, so it can take the new foreign bodies around me in a way. So this way I want to balance my allergies without taking allergy medication per se.
Now, I wanted to ask you, for instance, in your case, in your particular case, because you went, abroad, whenever we travel, we experience new food.
Correct.
And again, new bacteria.
Correct.
And
Correct.
because of that, we can also disturb our immune system as well. Can you explain a little bit better for the audience?
100%, especially like the food in the airport is really, really bad food. Please, I would next time I'm gonna fast in the plane. I mean, it's just like, I think that food was plastic that is heated in a plastic in a microwave. I don't. Yeah. I think this is. I didn't eat, believe me, but like this couple of bites that I took, because it's a 16 hours flight. That's a lot of toxins that came into my body, plus the radiation in the airplane, plus all the bathrooms that has new bacteria that our bodies are not used to it. Plus when you go there, hotels, rooms, new bacteria, interacting with new people, eating new food, your gut microbiome will have a lot of foreign bacteria. Doesn't mean they're all bad bacteria, but they're foreign to your microbiome. Your microbiome doesn't know how to deal with them in a way, and you will start having all these reactions. Like what I did in a way that when I went there, I started taking probiotics. But the thing that I didn't think about it, I'll think about it next time. I bought the probiotics from America. The strains here are way different than the strains over there. So I should have bought my probiotics over there.
Interesting.
I did not see, even like, and I should have eaten fermented food that was fermented over there. Because whenever they're cutting the cabbage or the cucumber, they're getting there's bacteria everywhere, right? They're getting the bacteria from the environment that they have, from the air, from everything, and they got fermented into these fermented food. So I believe for next time, we shouldn't take probiotics like from here. It doesn't make any sense. That's why my toxic, I couldn't actually keep myself healthy in a way. We should buy from there and take like kimchi and sauerkrauts and cucumbers, fermented food from over there, to help kind of balance the bacteria that I'm eating from the food over there in a way. See, but also I will give a tip, like really important, is to have digestive enzymes with you all the time, because all these new bacteria coming in, it's going to make your digestive system go whack in a way. So by taking digestive enzymes every meal, it will help clear out all of this and detoxify your body. And in a way, this is a good thing. And even though I got sick, but it's a good thing. It will increase our resilience. Because whenever we are in one place all the time in our comfort zone, we're eating the same amount of the same kind of food, that we're drinking the same kind of water that has the same kind of bacteria, and we are around the same kind of viruses, our body will plateau. We will bring our body to health, but it will plateau. Our body needs to be challenged every now and then. Otherwise, if our body plateaus, even our thinking will plateau. We will just go into our comfort zone, and it will be so hard to get ourselves out of it. So in a way, it's okay when we travel to get sick. In a way, you want to challenge your immune system. You wanna see how much you can overcome foreign things, while it is under your control in a way. But for next time, I will take care of my gut health even more. But it was a good challenge for me mentally and physically in a way.
I would say as a challenge, guys, travel more.
Exactly.
The good tip of the week: travel more. So,
exactly. I swear. It's like,
if you can do vacations, if you can travel abroad, hey, do that. Why? First of all, I mean, the experience itself, and of course, you get to relax, even though you get so tired out of traveling. It's amazing. But seeing the world is something special. I mean, we live in a magnificent world, and there's so much to explore. So take your time, guys, and explore the world and enjoy it, because we have a beautiful world. And by doing so, again, we are building our immune system as well. So
correct.
Now, about these autoimmune disorders, now we just covered, for instance, whenever we get sick, different illnesses, and of course, whenever we travel, because of our gut bacteria. And something that a lot of people don't consider, particularly, is that, for instance, in our gut, and we have said this many times, is that about 80% of the autoimmune disorders are related to our gut. So whenever we are experiencing autoimmune disorders, the first place we should be looking at is our gut. And secondly, from there, we should be looking at whether I got sick because of a virus, because of a bacteria, because of a parasite, or something like that. Then we start looking about where our house, the things that we are doing daily. What toothpaste am I using? How am I drinking my water? Am I reheating my food in a plastic plate? These are the type of things that we usually don't ask, or don't question, because even you get a food plate in foam food plate, right? And you take it into your microwave and you turn it on, and those particles of plastic will go into your food. Again, this is the type of things that we're dealing with constantly. Even our bottled water. How long has that water been bottled? And sometimes you see how people distributor factories. Sometimes that water will sit in the sun before it gets to a truck, and you have to wonder about the temperatures inside of a truck when it's traveling from one state to the other, from one plane to the other. And finally gets to your house. Those are the type of things that usually we don't consider. But whenever we're looking at the culprit for autoimmune disorders, this is where you should be looking at. And unfortunately, it's not how we are trained to think. And even in Western medicines, whenever we talk about autoimmune disorder. Well, it's because of genes. It's because of, but it never goes back to environment or our food, and we have to tackle that directly, because usually is where we find our culprit, in terms of the things that are causing our autoimmune disorder, our autoimmune system to go out of whack. Now, going back to the types of hair loss that we're going to be diving in today, I want to start with alopecia areata. Now, Biz, you have recently major success with alopecia areata patients, and I want you to to talk to our audience about your experience with it, and what have you seen that was most common within your cases of alopecia areata.
So yeah, I did work on a couple of alopecia areata lately, and the first one, I'll go through them really quick, but it's very interesting that the first one was a 3-year-old girl who had, I think we talked about that in previous episode, but I'll go through it very quickly for the new people who are watching us right now. Basically, this girl, she had a food poisoning with E. coli, like a year before the alopecia areata started to hit her. So she's 3. So she came to me when she's 3 years old. So basically, let's say she was 2 when she had this E. coli food poisoning. And of course, her parents took her to the ER, and they managed the food poisoning symptoms and everything. This is how it should be, in a way. But what happened is, after the ER visit, nobody thought about what kind of chemicals and what kind of reactions her body is going to have to that chemicals and the amount of medication and the amount of antibiotics they're giving her. So they treated her as they should treat her. But after that, the girl started to have like yellow skin. She started to lose her interest in playing. She had no energy, all of these things. And then Halloween, according to her mom, when Halloween came in and she ate a great amount of sugar, she woke up the next morning, literally, the hair is just coming out in bunches in her mom's hand. And that was devastating for both the girl and the baby as well. So in a way, if you look back at it, when she had an E. coli food poisoning, they gave her, I would say, maybe 3-4 kind of injections, that food poisoning stuff. I don't know what are they, antibiotics, all kind of things. But what happened to her gut after the antibiotics? So her gut was depleted from good bacteria, 100%. Her liver was overwhelmed with all the toxins that are in these injections that have preservatives and other chemicals that like your body doesn't really react to properly. So, and then the sugar amount came in and it kind of broke her system, and she had a autoimmune response. Not an autoimmune. This girl doesn't have an autoimmune disease. So I asked her parents to do an ANA test, a blood test, to make sure that she doesn't have an autoimmune disease. So we want to make sure that what she has is a response to the E. coli and the food poisoning that she had. And it came back, the ANA test came back positive. Came back negative, means she doesn't have any autoimmune disease. So all this is an autoimmune response to what happened to her. Her body cannot take it anymore, and she starts losing her hair in bunches. So basically, by addressing the gut to this girl, that's all what it takes.
I like the way you mentioned, to making the difference between, establishing the difference between autoimmune disorders and autoimmune response. And that's where we get hit the most. And because it is a response, we just go about our lives and just forget about it, because it is something that it may be just brief, something that is short term. It's not something that will haunt me for the rest of my life in some cases. But, because of it, we usually tend to neglect the importance of these events. And because of that,
like allergies are an autoimmune response.
Exactly. And because we neglect those things, whenever we go to our doctor, we forget to say those things. And because we forget to say those things, and doctors won't ask sometimes, then of course it will go, we will be overlooked. Now, unfortunately for us in the trichology business, if you're good in the trichology business, then you understand that you need to ask those things. And even though we ask, sometimes people forget. And, it is crucial, it is important that whenever we are experiencing hair loss, guys, to do a timeline journal of events and follow it back maybe a year before you had your hair loss situation, whatever that is. Because again, you want to follow back in the things that happened to you during that time. You may not remember. You may ask your husband, you may ask your children. If you leave alone, then God help you. But the thing is, if you have someone with you, usually, yeah, you don't remember you had a bad allergy event, whatever. Oh yeah. And you start writing it down. The important thing is that you want to trace down those events in your life, because again, they might be the reason why you experience so many things, including, of course, hair loss. And this is the hair loss show, so
Yes,
of course we're going to be directing our attention to hair loss, but it's not limited only to hair loss. There are many other things that can happen. All right, so when it comes to alopecia areata, one of the things that I like to do for my patients is usually I like to work with their gut, and working through their gut and providing the right antioxidants into the bloodstream to help basically start building that autoimmune system. If we are low in vitamin D, for instance, we know that our immune system is going to be compromised. Like this I mentioned, maybe you want to start adding vitamin C to get that immune system stronger into the process. So those type of things can definitely help and improve the situation. Now, usually for alopecia areata and their different expressions, once that autoimmune response starts to be tamed down, that's when we start seeing regrowth of hair. And of course, we can accelerate the hair growth production by stimulating the anagen phase of the follicle. And that way, of course, we're going to start seeing great results. Now, Biz, in your experience so far with alopecia areata, what was the turnaround, the average turnaround process before you started seeing hair growth? How long did it take, basically?
So if we are dealing with only alopecia areata, because I have another case I want to talk about, if we're dealing with only alopecia areata, which is coming from a gut problem or an autoimmune response, or like both in a way, that at 6 weeks you start seeing the growth. 4 weeks you start seeing the growth. At 6 weeks it's longer a little bit, so you can more visibly see it in a way. It's going to take 12 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks to see fully growth. Anyway, of course, with women who has longer hair, it's going to take a little bit more, but you can see the patch is filling up at 6 to 8 weeks.
Perfect. Now, I want to jump in with, for instance, chemo-induced hair loss. Now, this is another subject, when it comes to hair loss. And we understand that, for instance, whenever we go through chemotherapy, it usually is because we're experiencing a form of cancer, although chemotherapy is not only for cancer, it's also being used for other type of situations. But the results is kind of the same, because the chemo, what actually does is it tries to basically attack rapid dividing cells. Now, among the rapid cells that we have in our body, we have, of course, the hair cells, which is why usually people after chemotherapy start losing their hair, because of the cells inside the hair bulb, they starts to die. And because of it, then we experience the hair loss. Now, the reason why I bring chemo-induced hair loss with autoimmune disorders is because, again, we have to remember what caused what was the initial cause that drove this type of treatment. And again, it usually is an autoimmune disorder. For instance, in this case, cancer. Now, Biz, what can you tell us about, for instance, cancer patients and, of course, chemotherapy, and the relationship to hair loss?
Yeah, these chemotherapies, they are chemical agents that will attack the body system, and it will create an autoimmune response for your body. And it's a really big one, and it's a really hard one. As you said, these agents, the chemical, whatever poison they put in us, it's actually a poison to poison all cells, the good and the bad. They don't differentiate between the good and the bad. But, like there's a lot of people have good experience with that, and people have not a good experience with that. But what happens, these poisons, since they are attacking all good and bad cells, they're going to attack, like you said, Sergio, the mitosis phase of the hair follicle, of the cell division in the hair, the bulb, in the hair bulb itself. So we don't have mitosis anymore. We don't have new cells coming out, and it will attack the existing good cells that you have already, which is the hair follicle in this case, and everything will basically die off. Let me rephrase that. They really don't die off. They stop multiplying. So the person will look bald, or like big chunk of the hair is gone, but the actual hair follicle is still alive. There is still, it didn't die per se. So it is not a scarring alopecia per se, but there is no more cell division in that bulb to give life to this hair follicle, so it will produce the hair shaft, so we can see the hair shaft growing. So this is in a way a good thing in a way. So when these poison will just leave your system and your body will clean up your system, they will come back to life. Of course, the first hair cycle, it's going to be bringing weaker hair shaft. The second, it will be more better and stronger and better and so on. But we have a trick we always tell our clients if they're going through this chemotherapy, is to apply cold caps, they call it, cold caps, in a way, cold therapy, in a way that
it's also called hypothermia caps.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So in a way that if you apply cold on the scalp itself while going through the chemotherapy, so that these poisons, because they heat the body, and then the cold will counteract this heat. So kind of you will decrease the amount of insults on the hair follicle.
Yeah.
It will still happen, but as I said, they are not scarring alopecia. They are still under alopecia areata in a way, but maybe under totalis, which is a non-scarring form of alopecia.
Yeah.
And it is, in a way, if a person, just take care of themselves afterwards, our bodies are resilient. They will come back.
Definitely. Now I want to jump into the scarring types of alopecia, because we covered the non-scarring types first. Now I want to jump into the scarring types of alopecia. There's a variety of them right now. There's a website that I always like to recommend for people to visit, and is the scarringalopecia.org. Scarringalopecia.org is a group of dermatologists and researchers, and they have basically they do provide orientation to the general public, and they also bring in a lot of research. And because of that, you will see on that page the different types of scarring alopecia and the different types of treatment that are available till this day, medical treatment that are available to, of course, address these types of scarring alopecia. Now, among the most common types of scarring alopecia, there's, for instance, CCCA, which is called the central centrifuge cicatricial alopecia. It has a very long name. This is why many people go CCCA, and that's it. But this type of alopecia affects a particular group of people, at least more predominantly, although it's not exclusive to this type of group, to this group of people. But unfortunately, it does have an effect on African American women, particularly due to, and this is one of the possible explanations, because of relaxers. Although I'm not fully convinced about it, but it's one of the different hypotheses about this type of scarring alopecia. The thing that happens with it in all forms of scarring alopecias basically is that the follicles, basically, they become cicatricial. They are being destroyed, basically. they are being destroyed, and they're being destroyed because of the immune system. Again, another autoimmune response, and starts triggering a hair loss, and then the follicle starts to shrink to the point where finally it disappears from our skin. And when that happens, unfortunately, you can never grow hair out of that particular follicle. Once that follicle has become cicatricial, there's no way. But if it is in the way to become cicatricial, then maybe there's maybe there's some hope. Maybe there's time to stop the progression and maybe get some of the hair back. And I know you, Bisan, have some experience with that as well. Please talk to us about that.
Yeah, so scarring alopecia is very interesting kind of like hair loss due to an autoimmune response, and it is always autoimmune response in a way. Yeah. And these scarring alopecia, what happens is they come in different forms. They usually come, if it's in the middle, it's called central central centrifugal secretional alopecia. And these scarring alopecia they are a bit tricky. So if the client comes to our office a little bit early on in even if the hair is gone, but the scalp, it's still kind of alive in a way. So if they come early on, I would say like maybe a year into the onset of the autoimmune response, then we as trichologists, we can bring this hair back. Why I'm saying that? Because even though we have like a smooth area, like let's say in the middle, okay? And this smooth area, they don't have hairs, but the hair follicles are still viable. They're still alive. The sebaceous glands underneath the scalp, we can see it in the microscope or the dermoscope that we have. We can see that these follicles are still alive, and we actually can count them. Say like, okay, in this area we have 4 or 5, in this area we have 4 or 5. Not necessarily all of them are still alive, but majority of them will be still alive if you come early on. And we can bring all this hair back. Believe me, I did it many, many times. We can bring this hair back. First, of course, underlying the root cause of it internally and externally by stimulating the hair growth, depending on the skin type or the scalp type. And depending if they have other issues. Like, for example, there's a lot of people I'm seeing right now having scarring alopecia with seborrheic dermatitis. You know what I mean? It's just so interesting in a way that they have a couple of 3 things going all at once, and we will talk about that in a minute. But if you in the audience have a hair loss somehow in the middle, or like traction alopecia is kind of a scarring hair loss, for example, but it's not due to autoimmune response. This is due to tight hairstyles. So you want to differentiate between scarring alopecia that are due to autoimmune response and due to other things. And we can talk about scarring alopecia in details in a different episode, but let's talk about the autoimmune response right now. So in a way that when you start having, like, if you got sick or you got like really, really ill, or something changes, you got diagnosed with celiac disease suddenly, then that is your genes just woke up, or you turned on your genes right now, and now you have an autoimmune disease, and then you have a scarring alopecia. Somehow go to your trichologist early on so they can save these follicles before the scalp calcified. When the scalp is calcified, means it's really hard, means there's no more viable follicles that can allow the trichologist to stimulate and bring the hair back. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I'm trying to bring in the picture here.
No, I can't see it.
Can't see it. Let me see it now. Can you see it now?
No.
All right. It was a good try. We didn't carry on the show. Here it is. Here it is. All right. This is what the CCA looks like, ladies and gentlemen, which is why, it's so tricky sometimes. And I wanted to bring it in because I want to people to have a visual of the type of hair loss that we're talking about.
And sometimes this area in the middle is smooth. Like smooth, and even though if it's smooth, this area, that's okay. There is a big chance that we can bring the hair back.
Now let's talk about a little bit about frontal fibrosing scarring alopecia. This is another type of scarring alopecia. It's quite different because on the picture that we have previously, we saw that the hair loss was right here on the top. Now, this one is a frontal band. Now, what can you tell us about this frontal band, Biz?
So this is really a very highly inflammatory kind of an autoimmune response, really hard, and usually this is mostly it's scarred. Like 80% of this area is already scarred. Usually it happens to Caucasian women postmenopausal, but now it is happening to guys like males and even younger ladies. So it's not only postmenopausal women as we thought it would be. And this is literally, it's one of the hardest things to bring back to life. But we as psychologists, we can try, at least if you have 30% of the hair back after addressing the root cause, this is still good in a way. To me, this is still really a success. Like little bit success is better than nothing. And
I say with scarring alopecias, just by stopping the progression, just stopping the progression,
that alone,
it's amazing because again, we're talking about a type of hair loss that is permanent. This is a permanent type of damage. So there's no way you're gonna get it all back. You might get some of it back, but definitely not all of it. Considering that most patients actually, when they get to see us, it has been a couple of years after they started the onset. So usually, for them, when they come to me, I say, when did it start? Oh, about 2-3 years ago. Oh, we're kind of late into the dance, but we're going to do whatever we can at this point, and try to at least preserve the hair that we still have. And I know that it is frustrating to a lot of people, and it's very hard to manage and to deal with this, because unfortunately, the way we are set up to believe on the types of results that we're able to get nowadays is like, medicine is on this top right now. We can do just about everything. Well, there's limitations, ladies and gentlemen. There's still a lot of limitations, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just what is available to the general public nowadays. And of course, unfortunately, many of the treatments that are related to hair loss, they're not covered by a medical insurance, unfortunately. So many of these things, they need to be paid out of pocket, unfortunately. But if we want to have our hair back, then this is the type of things that we have to do. Now, usually, Biz, we see a lot of people, a lot of patients that undergo or experience, for instance, these types of scarring alopecias, and they cover up. They use either wigs, weaves, different systems to at least, make themselves look good with it. And I say, it's a good practice at the end of the day, in terms of, if you want to look a certain way, you will achieve that. Bravo. But when it comes to the health of the follicles, if you really want to treat that area, it's going to be a lot harder for your specialist, for your technician, to work around a system and do treatments at the same time. So some of the things that you have to consider while you're working on it. Now, I want to talk a bit about seborrheic dermatitis and its relationship to talar effluvium. And I wanted to bring it in at this moment, because usually one of the things that we mentioned, and you were mentioning this, some of the scarring alopecias, they have an early beginning that resembles a little bit of seborrheic dermatitis. Some of the symptoms that we see with scarring alopecia, they resemble a lot. They look a lot like seborrheic dermatitis.
So they start as seborrheic dermatitis. That's what you're saying.
They might start sometimes as a simple form of, because the thing is, you get to see with scarring alopecias, we see the oxidative stress due to lactic acid and squalene. We get to see the inflammation on the skin, the erythema, and we get to see sometimes a type of dandruff at the opening of the follicle. And usually what we see, the extension of the inner root sheet being shown at the base of the follicle, being detached. So you see things that look like seborrheic dermatitis and the earliest forms sometimes.
Mm,
And those are the things that usually, I understand that what I'm seeing is not precisely seborrheic dermatitis, but
mm,
it resembles like a seborrheic
interesting.
dermatitis.
Mm,
And one of the things that I do with my scarring alopecia patients is that I will treat them, though, as if it was seborrheic dermatitis, even
mm,
though it is
mm,
not just the seborrheic dermatitis symptoms, because that's one of the things that I want to tackle. Then I want to make sure that the autoimmune response starts to calm down, to get that
mm,
inflammation under control. And as soon as I get that under control, I have a better chance of at least keeping that hair. But if I'm not controlling the inflammation, then
mm,
it's going to be very hard. So a lot of people are struggling with hair loss. They need to understand that dealing with their scalp inflammation is key. Is key to basically deter any type of hair loss on their scalp. And particularly, I see this a lot again with telogen effluvium. Most of the time, you see, because of the mechanism involved in the way the hair is being released, we see some extra sebum. Not necessarily in the amount, but usually in the quality of the sebum is being compromised. And because of that, we see a lot of telogen effluvium involved in the process.
mm.
And again, this is again another form of autoimmune response being affecting
Interesting.
and creating inflammation onto the scalp and then releasing the hairs. Now, Biz, I know I give you a strong introduction here, but I want to give you a good lean forward. So, what can you tell us about this?
It's very interesting, actually. Very interesting. I never had this client before. I never saw that before. So I am learning from you right now how it kind of looks like seborrheic dermatitis. It could be an autoimmune response. I theoretically, scientifically speaking, I agree 100%. I would love to see it one day so I can kind of
Yeah, because the thing
know
is,
how to deal with it.
you have
But
you have
it's
to realize
interesting that you're dealing with it as if it's seborrheic dermatitis. Very interesting.
when it comes to the treatment plan, I will
Very
follow
interesting.
to the similar pattern of seborrheic
Mm.
dermatitis treatment, because again, I want to tackle down to the inflammation. And again, if I get the inflation under control,
Makes sense.
that's all that
100%.
matters at the end of the
Right.
day. I get the inflammation under control, then I can deal with the rest of the stuff
Right.
that
Right.
usually accompanies these types of hair loss.
Very nice.
Now, again, when it comes to seborrheic dermatitis, again, one of the some of the features or some of the things that we're looking at again is the inflammation, the toxic sebum related, and of course the release of excessive shedding. Now, not all telogen effluviums will show excessive shedding. What we'll see sometimes is a shedding that goes over time, and we have people experiencing telogen effluvium. Bless you. Experiencing telogen effluvium over a long period of time. For instance, we have people who have experienced telogen effluvium for a couple of years sometimes. And the shedding is just, the hair loss becomes amazing. That's where we start seeing what we call the CTE, the chronic telogen effluvium, because it becomes extended, those symptoms, to a point where usually we see a lot of shedding, and those follicles eventually they starts to miniaturize, unfortunately. And even though we understand that telogen effluvium is not cicatricial by nature, it can become over time if it goes unchecked. And that's the problem. A lot of people believe that telogen effluvium will go by itself, and not necessarily. And again, I want to give a little shout out. We're going to have a telogen effluvium seminar. It's going to be a webinar, by the way. We're going to have a telogen effluvium webinar with the hair wire, Bisan, Carrie, myself, and maybe some extra help, some surprises. We're going to have it for that special event. And it's going to be on June the 2nd. June the 2nd is the date. Save the date, guys. We're going to be opening the registrations very soon for everyone who wants to be part of this webinar. It's going to be a very intense webinar. It's going to be, first of all, intended for professionals, but general public can come. Yes, you are invited. Why? Because you need the information, guys, and you need to know what to look for and what to tell your health provider what they need to know. Sometimes, sometimes as a patient, we need to educate our professionals so they will know what to look for and help us along the way. And if they do not know, then it's a great opportunity to introduce them to trichology. And of course, this is what we do here at the Hair Wire. We want to educate people, we want to educate our professionals, and of course, we want to bring in information so that people can understand better how to treat their hair loss, and of course, keep the hair that they have. That's the most important thing.
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
That's true. And I want to add one more thing. You said that some people with scarring alopecia, they will use wigs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, which is great. We should live our life normally in a way, and we should be happy about how we look. However, a lot of people that they are wearing the wigs, we have to make sure that fungus doesn't develop. I see it a lot. Like they will, even the fungus will be like right here and under the wig. And then when they come, I cannot start treating them for scarring alopecia because I need to get rid of the fungus first.
That's something very, very, very particular. And sometimes, we don't consider this. And I've stumbled myself upon those type of cases, particularly when they have been using that same system for a very long time. I have not taken good care of it. Right. And unfortunately, that happens a lot because sometimes people, they do not understand. If you have a system, you need to go back to the salon regularly so they can remove the piece. They can wash it properly, give the treatment to the piece, and of course to the scalp and to the hair. And when they reattach the system, it should be clean. But even in those cases, we see sometimes, even though, because again, people, they want to wash their hair by themselves, and they will do things at home. And of course, there's humidity trapped inside in between the piece and your scalp. And of course, things can develop. And of course, if you have a situation when you have a scalp dysbiosis, that will definitely be the perfect environment for bacteria and funguses to overgrow. And that can also become a very, very huge problem in that sense. So yes, definitely something.
Right. And also I have a case with alopecia. Actually, it is alopecia areata, but it is on the neck, so we call it alopecia of Yasis, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, I cannot grow it back, and it puzzled me why I'm not growing it back. Every time, like little bit of hair comes out, it falls back again. Comes out, falls back again. So finally, I said, I want you to get a mold kits into your house. Because I fixed her gut. I'm working with her internally. I bring the hair, then it falls back. The hair falls back. So she has mold in her house. It's working against us.
Yeah. The environment, that's the thing, as we were saying in the beginning, usually we want to start with the gut, but after we have done that and we still have issues, then we have to look at the environment. Where are you sleeping? The room, your house, where do you spend your time? The office that you're working in. You wouldn't believe, I mean, if you work in a very unhealthy environment, and I'm talking, some business owners are so freaking cheap. And I have to say this, I mean, you look at the HVAC systems, all polluted for years without proper maintenance. I mean, you can walk into an office sometime and you can smell it. It's so bad. And people are working there and they all become sick every time. I'm sorry, guys.
Mold toxicity is the worst.
Oh my gosh, you have these are the type of things that you have to consider. What's happening in our environment, at home, at work, wherever we hang out. you know, is it a clean place? Isn't it? I mean, and we understand, you know, I have to work, you know, this is a place of work, but if the place is not clean,
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
you work in a kitchen, and you know the kitchen is dirty. Oh my Lord. That's bad. That's bad right there. And of course, guys, you know, you definitely want to make sure that, you know, your surroundings are, you know, as clean as possible to avoid contaminants in your body. And because of sometimes the environment is not that clean, then we have to use strong chemicals. And strong chemicals can have just such a bad how we say, it can aggravate our situations as worse or as bad as even a dirty environment. So again, keep it clean. Use your organic cleansers. Do it regularly, and it will be fine. But again, if you're not cleaning regularly, then you will need those strong cleansers, and definitely they can toxify everything around you.
that's very true.
Unfortunate. That's the deal. Hey guys, well, it's about time. We need to go. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today, and remember, June 2nd for the Intelligent Effluvium webinar that we're going to have here at the Hairwire. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fully packed of information. We're going to be talking about what's about 4 hours is the webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes,
it's a full day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full day of information.
Live Q&A. We have the three of us will be there, and then we might have also guests, so your questions will be answered from 3 or 4 or 5 different perspectives.
Oh, yes, definitely, guys. You do not want to miss it. So stay tuned, stay connected, stay hair smart here at the Hairwire. Biz, anything you want to add before we go?
My allergies are kicking in, so.
All right, that's a cue. We have to go. See you next time, guys. God bless you all. Till then, bye-bye.